Czyli z polskiego na angielski.
Na angielski. Raz, raz, angielski. Raz, raz, angielski, angielski. English, English, checking, testing.
Dzień dobry, kłaniamy się Państwu nisko i witamy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second day of our Three Seas Local Government Congress.
Wspaniałych wczorajszych dyskusji, wniosków,
We're
które
very
się
impressed
nasunęły.
After yesterday's debates, meetings and exchange, and the overall atmosphere of cooperation, yesterday we signed the international agreement to establish a network of universities of 3SI. It's a very promising prospect for the academia in East Central Europe. We are happy to be back with you throughout the day. Beata Olech, Grzegorz Miśtal.
A na scenę zapraszamy teraz gospodarza kongresu Trójmorza, marszałka
Can I have the host of the event, Marszał Jarosław Stawiarski, to say a few words for the opening of the day.
Szanowni Państwo, drodzy przyjaciele,
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends,
jest mi niezmiernie miło przywitać Państwa
again, I'm
na
very
otwarciu
happy
drugiego dnia samorządowego
to
Kongresu Trójmorza.
welcome you on the second day of our Congress.
Panią minister
We have with us the Minister of Climate and
panią
Environment,
Annę Moskwę.
Anna Moskwa.
Witam pana
We
Germana
also have with us
ministra
German
energetyki
Galushenko, Minister
Ukrainy, który
of
łączy się z nami
the energy
online.
sector of Ukraine, who is, I believe, with us online.
Pana Marka Dittla, prezesa
Marek
Giełdy
Dittl,
Papierów
head of
Wartościowych,
the Warsaw Stock Exchange.
posłów, senatorów
We have
Rzeczypospolitej,
parliamentarians, senators of the Republic of
wojewodę
Poland,
podkarpackiego panią Ewę
the
Leniart,
governor of Podkarpackie, Ewa Leniart,
marszałków województw
marshals
Małopolskiego, pana
of
Witolda
Małopolskie,
Kozłowskiego, Świętokrzyskiego, pana Andrzeja
Świętokrzyskie,
Będkowskiego, przewodniczącego Sejmiku Województwa Lubelskiego pana
head of the
Jerzego
executive
Szwaja,
board of Lubelski, Jerzy Szwaj,
wicemarszałek województwa
deputy
podkarpackiego
marshal of
panią Ewę Draus,
Podkarpackie, Ewa Draus,
członka zarządu województwa mazowieckiego
member of the
panią
executive board
Janinę
of
Ewę
Mazowieckie,
Orzełowską,
Janina Ewa Orzełowska,
członka zarządu województwa podlaskiego pana
member of
Marka
the executive
Malinowskiego.
board of Podlaskie, Marek Malinowski.
Witam przewodniczących
I
okręgów
wish to
rumuńskich,
welcome
Dolsz,
representatives of
Kalarashi, Maramureș,
Romania
Karasz,
regions.
Severin oraz Centru. Witam przedstawicieli kraju
I wish to welcome representatives of the Prešov country, Slovakia, and the Council of Regions Ponevezh, Lithuania.
Witam liczne delegacje naszych przyjaciół
And
z
also
Ukrainy na czele z
our
szefami obwodów
friends,
Chmielnickiego,
delegates from
Zakarpackiego,
Ukraine,
Lwowskiego, Wołyńskiego i Rówieńskiego. Konsula Generalnego Ukrainy w Polsce
Let me
pana
welcome
Olha Kutsa.
Consul General of Ukraine to Poland, Mr.
Witam
Kutz,
konsuli honorowych
and
Zjednoczonego
honorary
Królestwa
consuls
Wielkiej Brytanii,
of the United Kingdom,
Irlandii Północnej, Słowenii, Republiki
Slovenia,
Mołdawii, Austrii
Moldova,
i Węgier.
Austria, and Hungary.
Witam przedstawicieli administracji rządowej,
Let me
samorządowej,
welcome representatives
radnych
of
wszystkich
the
szczebli.
local and central administration and regional and
Witam
city
rektorów
councillors.
uniwersytetów
We also
z
have with
kraju
us
trzeciego
rectors
Trójmorza,
of the
przepraszam.
universities of the 3SI region.
Witam służby mundurowe oraz wszystkich
We have with us
zgromadzonych
officers, uniformed services, and of course welcome all
Cieszę się, że
guests,
pomimo
all delegates.
nieobecności swoje słowa i swoją obecność
Despite
zaznaczy
he's not here
na
with us
samorządowym kongresie
in
Trójmorza
person,
prezes Rady Ministrów
but
pan
we will
Mateusz
hear
Morawiecki,
from
który skierował
Prime
kilka
Minister
słów do uczestników
Mateusz
naszego
Morawiecki, who
kongresu.
recorded a short
Szanowni
message
Państwo,
to the
za nami
delegates.
pierwszy dzień kongresowych
Ladies and gentlemen,
spotkań i
day
debat.
one
Wczoraj wiele
is
uwagi
history.
poświęciliśmy
Yesterday
istotnym
we focused
kwestiom
a
z
lot
punktu widzenia współpracy
on
gospodarczej regionów w
economic
kontekście
cooperation of our
aktualnej
regions
sytuacji
set in the context of the current geopolitical situation. During the opening panel, we had a closer look at the various initiatives within the 3SI. The participants, the speakers, spoke about untapped potential that is still there, and also various obstacles that slow down our economic progress today, and are likely to do so prospectively.
Prezes Jarosław Kaczyński przypomniał słowa
Yesterday, in the
świętej
letter
pamięci
of
prezydenta
Jarosław Kaczyński,
Lecha Kaczyńskiego wygłoszone
we
1
heard
września
words of President
2009
Lech Kaczyński
roku na Westerplatte.
from September
Z Monachium
2009.
trzeba wyciągnąć wnioski,
We have to draw
które
conclusions
sięgają
from Munich,
czasu współczesnego.
conclusions that reach contemporary times. We cannot give way to imperialism. We cannot give ground to neo-imperialistic attempts. But that threat that Lech Kaczyński foresaw back then materialized last year through the Russian aggression of Ukraine. So, very broadly understood, issues of security and defense were given absolute priority during various debates yesterday. We tried to find solutions to strengthen our regions against the background of the military conflict in Ukraine. We sought ways of consolidation at various layers. That's why we also had scientific and international sessions, as well as business meetings during yesterday's proceedings. The panelists of the Economic Forum spoke about cybersecurity, about digitization. Yesterday, representatives of East Central European universities signed an agreement to establish a network of our universities, of 3 SI universities. I believe this initiative will bear fruit in the future, and our universities will get closer in working towards common projects. 13 universities were signatories out of 10 countries. So today we continue some thematic lines. Among other things, we will continue discussing security, this time with particular focus on energy security. We will talk about technological independence and green transition, as well as the use of hydrogen in economy. We will also address questions of free transactions, of international transport. We will also speak a lot about our cooperation with Ukraine to make it part of the European economic bloodstream, and of course we will talk about the recovery of Ukraine after the war. I'm not even able to list all possible topics and speakers. You will see yourselves. Just to remind you, last year our regions signed the so-called Lublin Declaration, which was a will, which was an intent to work closer. Today, this will materialize into an agreement. And I believe this agreement on establishing the network of 3 SI regions will be at the foundation of strong, resilient partnership. I believe thanks to 3 SI will be able to speed up infrastructure projects, digitization, and making ourselves independent from Russian fuels. I believe if we work together, if we work closer in all these dimensions and provinces, will strengthen our regions, but also the economy and prosperity along Via Carpathia, with special focus on Lubelskie, which is my home. Wish you fruitful debates. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. As I've just heard, Prime Minister Morawiecki is a great supporter of the idea of 3SI. Now, please watch a video message from the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, Lublin is hosting the Three Seas Initiative guests. It's a special place where the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was established. But it wasn't only two nations, there were many nations that lived there. There's a predecessor of the European Union providing conditions for peaceful cooperation and coexistence of many nations. Today is a source of inspiration when we built our 3SI. Being to look back to an idea to bring our region security and growth. But 3SI cannot be built by meetings at presidential or governmental level. We need cooperation at every level, especially at local level. 3SI, it's not only about cooperation of states, but regions and local governments. The Union of Lublin shifted the idea from the personal union to the real union. Without you, we cannot shift the 3SI from the level of the state contacts to everyday cooperation level, having impact on the lives of every citizen. The 3SI is not only about digital or energy or transport transformation, it's also cooperation in the academia. We need to break the semi-peripheral paradigm which dictates interest in the UK, the US, or the Western countries. We need to focus locally. 3SI is also about countering the effects of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. We need to be thinking about inclusion of Ukraine into the European economic bloodstream and guaranteeing not only security but even more speedy economic growth and infrastructure development. The connections with the railways, the roads or pipelines that we build will be the palpable proof that we are doing away with the borders and we integrate our motherlands. 3SI is not only about catching up with others, it's also looking into the future, being fully aware of the challenges for the future. We do our best to work together for cybersecurity, energy transition, new technologies, including hydrogen technologies. We want to solve the future challenges as well as settling the past. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest challenges that Central European countries face is a broadly understood energy security. And we'll have an address to present the details of this challenge by Minister of Energy and Climate, Madam Anna Moskwa.
Dzień dobry Państwu, witam
Hello and welcome everyone. Mr. Marshal, dear hosts and guests from Poland and abroad, dear German, I hope you are here with us online. Thank you very much for the invitation to this event. The event has been a flagship and now is becoming a well-associated brand, and it's very good to see that it's Lublin that is hosting the brand. We have been talking about European, about energy security, them back then. At the same time, I declared that we would meet in the springtime and Polish citizens would check what the actual Polish energy policy is. And the wintertime and springtime actually have verified our autonomous, independent, sovereign, well thought over and consistent energy policy that let us survive the wintertime in the global on the global level, not only for industry, but every household, every institution, every kindergarten, every hospital, all of those didn't have any problems with getting gas and energy. A great challenge that we had to face, but we met them because we had been working on it for years. Of course, the effort last year was essential. The point is that it was a very consistent plan prepared by the architects of our energy policy, our energy independence, our energy sovereignty, as mentioned late President Lech Kaczyński, who had said that energy is and has to be a main pillar of cooperation in the 3SI, including for energy security. Energy sector, he said, would be the first to be attacked. That was actually what came true in 2022. It was a test for whole Europe. Various countries passed these tests with various results. Poland has very good results. We were able to ensure energy security, and since 2015, Poland has never deviated from its path and pipeline of the projects. Despite all the incentives, all the encouragements that we got from various countries, including from the European Union, to use the pipelines, now the Baltic pipe is a fact. It's ramping up, while other countries are simply starting to build the gas infrastructure. We have diversified our sources of energy, our inputs, our supplies, and because of that, last year, this year, and for the coming years, we are able to plan consistently our energy policy. Of course, there are challenges, there are plenty of challenges, and we face them just as we did when planning the energy policy in the previous years, with determination, with consistency, with long-term vision, by implementing large-scale, ambitious projects, nuclear power development, and stabilization of renewables, including energy storage facilities and grid development. But those ambitious projects also include the kind of sharing of responsibility for energy policy at the local level. Last year was also a test for local governments in terms of their care for the energy security of Poles, and local governments have passed this test. We see a growing number of local initiatives for distributed energy, cooperatives, clusters. Of course, these require new skills, new competencies, and new regional and international cooperation for the local governments, because it's not only about discussing things, it's about preparing, developing, drafting and implementing specific projects, and we hope that we in the 3SI can devise and pursue projects that will be role models for the whole Europe, including the component of energy storage to demonstrate to any investors that local government areas are good locations for investments. Today, when we have investors coming to local government, they will ask about the labor market, they will ask about the conditions and any tax reliefs or anything like that, but also they will ask for energy accessibility, cheap energy at acceptable prices, and green energy. These are the projects that are the biggest challenge for our economy. So far we have passed the test, but we need to speed up our efforts so that we can stay within this avant-garde of energy security, so that we can, with good, clean energy, cheap energy, affordable energy ensured to our citizens so that we can ensure competitiveness of our economies, national and local, regional governments. It's a good point for us to discuss these challenges ahead of us, but mind you, we've got the good grounds, good basis to build the proper architecture of energy security. Let's continue on this path. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the Programming Council of the Congress awards the prizes of the 3Cs Local Government Congress. We've got the awards granted also this year. Mr. Marshall, Professor Szewczak, as head of the Programming Council, why don't you join us on the floor, on the stage, and give the committee's decision on the awards. Ladies and gentlemen, the awards of distinction for input to the 3SI project and contribution for energy security goes to Minister of Climate and Energy, Anna Moskwa.
Minister Klimatu i Środowiska,
Minister of Climate and Environment, Anna Moskwa, awarded by the Programming Council of the 3Cs Local Government Congress.
Gratulujemy pani minister.
Congratulations, Madam Minister.
Państwo fotoreporterzy, rozumiem, są usatysfakcjonowani. Gratulujemy pani minister. Dziękujemy.
Congratulations once again.
Wręczającym.
Thank you very much.
Drodzy Państwo, na pewno Państwo się ze mną zgodzą, że wszystkie, a zwłaszcza te najlepsze pomysły wymagają
I think you will all
nakładów finansowych.
agree with me that the best
A w tej walce
ideas need
można liczyć na
funding.
prezesa Giełdy Papierów
And that is
Wartościowych.
why we would like to hear now from the head of the Warsaw Stock Exchange. So Marek Dietl will now speak about cooperation among the stock exchanges of the 3SI regions. Mr. Marek Dietl.
Szanowna pani minister, po pierwsze gratuluję tego
Madam Minister,
wyróżnienia.
congratulations
Trafił
on
we
this
właściwe
award.
ręce.
I hope,
Szanowny panie
I
marszałku,
do hope, I
gratuluję
believe
tego
this is the right person
Piękne miejsce,
to be awarded.
pełna sala.
Congratulations, Mr. Marshall, on this event.
Przyjaciele Trójmorza.
Dear
Wspaniale, że mogliśmy się
friends
tutaj zebrać.
of 3SI,
Zostałem poproszony, żebym opowiedział
I'm happy we have been able to gather here.
kapitałowych
The organizers
Trójmorza,
requested
o
me
giełdach
to say a few words about the capital
2022
markets
roku i
of the
perspektywie
3SI
na
regions
przyszłość. Mam na to
and
10 minut,
the
pozwolę
stock
sobie
exchanges and some
przygotować, prezentację.
forecasts for the future.
Na razie jeszcze tylko
I'm going to show you some slides. I need
zdalnie zmienić to. Poproszę o
someone to
slajd. Na tym drugim
flick the
slajdzie,
slides.
tego
Thank
jeszcze
you.
nie widzi- już widzicie. Super. Jest pokazane, że
So just a snapshot of 3SI regions, countries and stock exchanges and the year of establishment of individual stock exchanges. So as we can see, Austria was the first to set up their stock exchange more than 200 years, followed by Warsaw. Last year we celebrated the 140th anniversary of the stock exchange in Bucharest. So the story is long, as you can see, and the 19th century development of capitalism in our region is not very well studied. So I do encourage everyone to have a deeper look at it. As regards the transactions in our region, the Warsaw Stock Exchange leads the way. It's double the size of the stock exchange of Russia, followed by Hungary, Czechia, and Romania. The remaining countries show that their capital markets are much smaller. As regards the capitalization of companies in the region, we can see it's more balanced. We have Croatia, Austria, and Poland leading the way, but the other partners also have big companies that transact at their stock exchanges. We can see that compared to the GDP, it's Croatia that is at the top of the list, and I mean particularly we're talking about national companies, local companies, and few other neighbors with more than 15% of capitalization versus GDP. At the same time, all these stock exchanges, if we might have a more pan-European perspective, they are relatively small. If we compare it to Deutsche Börse and Euronext, so German and French stock exchanges, the French one is actually 7 stock exchanges combined. So at this virtual market, our stock exchanges combined represent only 3%. So, but don't be discouraged. We should take it as a stimulus to get integrated, to grow stronger. Together with the International Bank of Development, we talk about how to grow in this area. We try to advocate better regulations. With such huge disparities here, we encourage the European Union to pay more attention to our regions. We wrote a letter on this, and we also get engaged in shared marketing. We travel the world to promote our market, our 3SI market as a whole. Because we have local government activists here, I also encourage you to issue bonds to seek funding at stock exchanges. More than 10 self-governments in Poland emit bonds on the local market. Perhaps the other self-governments should also do it at the all national stock exchanges. That's it from me. Thank you very much for having me, and congratulations on this wonderful Congress Center. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, Mr. Dietl.
Pana prezesa wpisują się także w tematykę czekającej nas teraz dyskusji.
So we follow up with the first panel,
energetyczne Polski w ujęciu
Poland's energy security in the geopolitical aspect. Our panelists will seek answers to energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine and Russia's invasion of the country. The partner of the panel is the Ministry of State Assets. The moderator, join us on stage. Mr. Moderator, please
Na scenę przypominamy,
take
że
over.
debata bezpieczeństwo energetyczne Polski w ujęciu
Poland's energy security in the geopolitical aspect. That's the title of the talk.
wszyscy paneliści zmierzają
Make sure we
do
have everyone on stage.
miejsc, a zatem oddajemy głos moderatorowi.
Mr. Moderator, over to you.
Państwa serdecznie na
Good
pierwszym
morning.
dzisiejszym panelu będziemy
This is the opening panel of today. We'll talk about Poland's energy security against a broader geopolitical context. The war in Ukraine has been going on for a year. Much has been said about military security over this time, but no less about energy security and the challenges that go with it. So where we are in terms of Polish energy sector and where should we go, this is what we would like to address today. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Pierwsze pytanie chciałbym skierować do pana prezesa Janusza Szewczaka, członka zarządu.
My first question goes to Mr. Szewczak, a member of the board for finance, PKN Orlen. You're building a multi-energy concern, and after the merger with Lotos and PGNiG, it is going to be so. So my question is, what's the role, what's the significance of such a multi-energy concern and its effect on the security of our region of Poland? Thank you, Mr. Marshall, in the first place, for inviting me to this session. I can see the Congress grows every year and attracts more and more outstanding guests and speakers. But the Polish government, Prime Minister Sasin, attaches a great attention to energy security and the role of state-owned companies in that. 5 years ago, nobody was sure whether we would be able, for a couple of years, to become truly independent from fuels resources from the East. For many, it was a science fiction, a fantasy topic, but we have done it. And PKN Orlen predicted this scenario, and we started to get ready for that a few years before. So this independence from carbohydrates from the East is a fact, and we know that fuels can be a weapon that Russia is ready to use against its own clients. Of course, this idea of multi-energy crisis was heavily criticized, which was completely unfounded, and we can see that against today's reality. Just to give you a picture, Orlen is not just a petrol station, because only 3% of our profit comes from retail, comes from the sales of fuels and all the items, all the articles you can purchase at petrol stations, like coffee or hot dogs.
Proszę Państwa, to jest tak, że zmienia się geopolityka dzisiejsza.
Geopolitics is changing before our very eyes. So geostrategies are, and Poland starts to play a more and more important role in the security system of the world. And energy security is the absolute foundation of any security. And on the one hand, we need regular supplies, access to energy sources, prices that are affordable to customers, and we have to also satisfy the needs of and expectations of our shareholders, because we are all listed companies. So just to give you an idea of the scale of PKN Orlen, we are one of the 150 biggest companies in the world, one of the 10 biggest companies in Europe. We are expecting revenues of 500 billion Polish zlotys, which is almost close to what the entire Polish state budget is. Well, I think much of this profit comes from your foreign overseas operations. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, of course, and we are ambitious enough to be not only a local leader or European leader, we want to go beyond that. We are present in almost all countries from the Baltic to the Adriatic Sea. And what we have been able to achieve over the last 7 years is model cooperation with the Polish government. Coherent concepts, so just to take the example of Via Baltica, Via Carpatia, the backbone of security for the whole three-side region. On top of that, we can't forget about energy security in the context of the war in Ukraine. We hope that after the victory of Ukraine, the reconstruction of the country will also be partly done by our resources, thanks to our resources, those who have been helping Ukraine morally, financially, materially, can also benefit from the recovery program. We talk a lot about nuclear energy, and the PGE is particularly interested in developing, in growing this sector. So my question to our speaker from PGE, what's the significance of nuclear projects? Why do we partner up with foreign entities from Korea, from the USA? I know there is a project also to involve the Polish business. Mr. President, can you cast some more light on that? PGE is the biggest power generator and heat generator in Poland. And after taking over PKP Energetyka, we are also the biggest distributor of energy in Poland. So we assume responsibility. We take this burden of responsibility to supply heat and power to individual customers, to companies. Lublin, by the way, is the head office of our distribution business. So we take the future very seriously. We want to keep Poles secure at least more than 10 years ahead when it comes to access to energy carriers. That's why we have been invited to join the nuclear power plant project together with a private energy generator, ZEPAK, and a Korean partner. This initiative was started by the Prime Minister Jacek Sasin in autumn last year. We traveled to Korea for a mission. We signed a letter of intent to establish a joint undertaking to build a nuclear power plant in Poland. And for the last 6 months, we've been working really hard in various teams to adopt a preliminary development plan for the investment involving seismic or geological studies, prepare a timetable for the whole project and some financial perspectives of the project. This is absolutely essential for the energy security of Poland. After we give up traditional coal-burning plants and facilities, and this is inevitable in 20-25 years, and it's not only because of the climate policy that some are very skeptical about, especially if European politicians speak about it. But this is also driven by the economic calculations, because coal, especially hard coal in Poland, is running short in the country. So in order to be independent in terms of energy, we have to build nuclear power plants. And this project is not the only one. There is another one, governmental project, as we say, done with American partners. Our Korean partner in the first project is a very reliable one. They have completed 12 nuclear power units so far, and we can see a very volatile economic setting that we operate in. That's why we are looking for reliable partners, and I believe we have found ones. As you know, we have been working very closely with Korea in many aspects. We purchase Korean armaments, we purchase Korean technology. I believe Minister Błaszczak, who was here yesterday, would be able to tell you more about it. You know, our ambition is to make the Polish army the strongest on the European continent. So this cooperation with Koreans, as I said, at different levels, in different provinces, is just a natural follow-up to previous military projects. We want Poland to be secure, to be independent, and we want our economy to be competitive. In order to make economy competitive, this economy needs reliable and relatively cheap energy. And of course, clean energy, as Minister Moskva mentioned some minutes before. We want to get rid of the carbon footprint because it generates extra costs for end consumers. So we hope around 2033-34 we are going to start delivering first clean nuclear energy from the first two completed units. As you know, the lignite plant in Bełchatów, the biggest energy generator in Poland, will have to be decommissioned in some years. So this is through partnership with the government, with private partners. We do it together. We assume responsibility for energy security of the country, of Poles, and this is part of a much broader program covering renewables, offshore, and the bigger picture of energy security for the country.
You mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the energy transition in your speech as one of the components in discussion that cannot be neglected in the context of our energy security. Bank Pekao SA is preparing a range of economic analysis for energy sector. So my question goes to Mr. Kwieciński. One of your reports is about the Fit for 55 package and its impact on Poland. Can you tell us more about that? Well, what is the outcome of your analysis? What are the cost calculations in your analysis for Poland to bear following the Fit for 55 policy? Once again, congratulations and thank you very much for inviting me. I believe that this Congress, this event, is very important, not only for Poland, but for the region in Europe, in the European Union, and then for Europe itself. It's really good that such initiatives are taken and that they focus on very specific forms of cooperation and business cooperation. Our presence here testifies well to this. Let me remind you, in Poland, we have warned for a long time that Russia would use energy sector for war purposes. Energy, fuels, raw materials are arms that Russia uses to its benefit. And now we have the consequences. And we had warned everyone before
therefore not to let Russia bypass Ukraine in its transit of gas, natural gas to Europe. And it was for bypass that Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 were built, actually. In fact, those two pipelines let Russia bypass Ukraine, and was one of the factors that triggered Russia's decision to attack Ukraine last year. So it shows us the importance of energy sector in Europe, not only in economic terms, but also in political terms. And it impacts security. We think that Poland played a huge role in making everyone aware of that, in making everyone, in instructing everyone how energy transition should be performed. And that's why the campaigns and the initiatives taken by the Ministry of State Assets are so important for our security and for the economy. Among our the companies, the SOEs, we've got really good analytical teams working there, and PKO SA, our bank, is an excellent analytics team. So we have prepared reports on the consequences for the Polish economy from the Fit for 55 package that has been adopted in the European Union. Let me remind you, initially it was to be Fit for 40, as it was to assume the carbon dioxide emission cuts by 40%. Then the level of reductions was increased to 55%. That's why the name, Fit for 55. So it's a very ambitious package, and it was drafted before Russia's aggression on Ukraine. And we believe that for it to come true, in terms of security, but also the competitiveness of the European economy, we believe that it should be modified and altered. And I will tell you why in a while. First of all, the costs of the package for the European Union will be huge. It will be the cost will be huge for Poland as well. Our estimates show that it will be 527 billion euro by the end of 2030. That's by the end of this decade. So this amount is comparable to our GDP figure. So really huge costs that we as a country, as an economy, as a society will have to bear. And our estimate shows that the majority of the costs, about 40%, will go to energy transition, that is funding for renewable projects, but also transition, especially in the energy sector, also the cost of adapting to the new energy requirements under the regulation. Another cost item, very important one, is the costs in the construction sector. Why? It's because the package itself not only provides for funding the provisions, but also legal provisions that stipulate that the ETS system, starting from end of 2026, will cover two new areas, two new sectors, and namely transport and construction, something that was missing from the ETS. Because ETS is mostly about industry or heavy industry, roughly speaking. So it will be more and more painful for the economy, but also for citizens as well. So our estimates shows that the cost for the construction industry will account for
some 27% of this 527 billion euro, and 1/3 of that amount for construction will go for permits and licenses. The analysis show that the cost of the trading limits could amount to 300 billion euro or zloty at most, and the rest will have to be covered by the economy. And that's where we see the huge role of the institutional sector, banking sector especially. The experience shows that the financing costs of such projects are co-covered by the banking sector. For renewables projects, they account more or less for 75%. But this shows us how high a level of funding we'll need to mobilize very shortly. I would now like to ask Piotr Podgórski about the significance of copper as a material that is a strategic one in the process of energy transition. For Poland, how important it is to have such a large scale producer with a global footprint, with a global operations. Well, thank you very much. I'll be talking about opportunities and challenges. Let me start with opportunities. Of course, all the equipment, I assume, in your pockets now will include some components made of copper from the KGHM. But if you have the energy sector, then grids, the equipment, machinery, and so on, then this shows how important it is for KGHM to contribute. We are, one of the leading manufacturers of copper and silver globally. But mind you, up to 80% of our income is generated in the copper area and in Poland. It comes from the whole process. I mean, the extraction, processing, and production. All those operations are located in a single place in Poland. And of course, we operate mines in Chile, in United States, in Canada, but the core business is in Poland. Now, our revenues or income and costs differ from what you can see in the commodities trading exchanges. So, as Mr. Kwieciński said, there's the cost side to be considered to be successful in a competitive market, to defend or push forward our position. We need to focus on the energy part of our operations and to ensure affordable energy prices to keep up the competitiveness. So let's look at Germany. There's an idea there to to give subsidies, energy subsidies from the state budget to German industry to reduce the prices. Well, on the other hand, Poland has to spend a lot, just to defend our position without increasing our revenues. This is happening in Europe now. China doesn't have any regulation like that, and in a couple of years, it may disrupt the entire sector. So Poland has its own gas and coal sources, but they cover only approximately 20% of the demand. That's why we are looking around for the permanent or the secure and stable sources. Wind or solar can give us up to 60% of our needs, but these need to be stable. We need 100% to be covered. That's why we are looking around for the nuclear power, especially. Grupa Azoty is one of the strategic SOEs, and its operations depend much on fuels, on energy prices. So, Mr. President, what initiatives you take to diversify? What activities you take to prevent the consequences of energy market fluctuations? Thank you very much for the invitation to the Congress. It's especially important that it's in Lubelskie and that our Azoty plant operates a significant part of our operations. So to answer your question, I think that the starting point should be that, well, in fact, we are much dependent on a variety of energy carriers, especially gas is the cost-driving factor at our group. So if we talk about gas, there are two things to consider. First, luckily, we don't have any problems with kind of physical availability of gas, and this is because of the well-informed, well-thought-over policy of the government. But 2022 was a troublesome year because of the prices of gas, and especially the price change dynamics. That was a challenge to us, but it's not only for us. The chemical industry in the European Union, the fertilizer industry in Europe was closed down, was shut down, and Azoty Group, and I'm proud of that. The Grupa Azoty was the last one in the European Union to suspend its operation just for a while. So, being fully aware of the strategic importance of the company, of its product, fertilizer, we simply kept on going for as long as we could. And that was in response to the energy prices. And our response can be found in the update of our strategy in 2021. The management board, headed by Tomasz Hinz, updated the strategy, and it's a strategy for green company. This is not because we are just fascinated with green energy or going green. We are a bit skeptical about going green as such, but we recognize that this is simply a must for us to go this direction. And as part of the updated strategy, that is a response to what's going on the energy markets, we operate a number of projects that are designed to first make us independent of fossil fuels as far as we can, and second, for us to boost our own energy sources, especially renewables. So soon, I think, we'll finalize the acquisition of the largest solar farm project in Poland. It's an external acquisition, but also will very soon ready to start renewable in-house projects to generate approximately 400 megawatts of installed capacity from renewables at our plants. We are also much interested in the SMR technology from the point of view of the chemical processes. What's important is the stability of supply. So
tym jesteśmy zainteresowani.
We are interested in SMRs. As you know, quite recently we have signed an agreement with the USNC, and the US company and University of Technology in Szczecin. And under this cooperation, I believe it will be the Police to establish the first the research reactor, nuclear reactor. But speaking of Police, let me point to another aspect. We've been listening to the EU, to the European Commission, to the trends that they set. The problem is that we seem not to be speaking about what the European Commission is silent about. And in fact, if we have a detailed look at Fit for 55, the regulation, especially cross-border exchange mechanism, the CEBAM, it appears that something designed originally to protect the market and climate, well, appears to protect only the climate, but definitely not the market. So the EU does not provide for a level playing field in this regard. That's why we want to develop our marine port in Police, handling port, now the fourth largest in Poland, and in line with the recommendations of Prime Minister Sasin for cooperation between the SOEs. And we are in talks with KGHM, for instance. We want to make Police a green raw material hub, because it may appear very soon that it's more profitable to import than to produce. And this is perhaps a likely outcome of the silent policy of the European Commission. And generally speaking, we try to be very flexible in approaching those challenges, being fully aware of the scale. As Mr. Kwieciński said, the report of the bank shows us the scale of the challenges. Armed aggression of Russia on Ukraine caused a coal crisis in Poland. We have faced an unprecedented crisis. There was a problem in delivering coal to Poles for winter time to heat the houses. Mr. Sasin appealed to local governments to get involved in the distribution of coal, and SOEs played a major role in that. They had to diversify the supply sources, and local governments played a key role. Part of the local governments were skeptical about that, part of them were quite open that it was, shifting responsibility to them. Now I'd like to ask you about your opinion about that solution. Was it okay? What was the execution of the plan? We have survived the winter time. No one ran short of coal. What was your opinion about the cooperation between central and local government?
Thank you very much for this question, for having me on this panel. We are happy that Poland, particularly Eastern Poland, is a very important place in Europe, given the situation, geopolitical situation in Europe and elsewhere. Well, going back to a question, of course, winter that has finished not so long ago was a challenge. There were major concerns back in summer and autumn whether we would survive without Russian coal, whether we would have enough
bezpieczeństwa
resources
energetycznego
to
Polaków. I
secure
to w tej skali
the
mikro,
heating
dlatego,
security,
że, tutaj
to put it
w wielu
like this,
dyskusjach
of Poles.
działań, zarządów dużych spółek Skarbu Państwa w zakresie bezpieczeństwa energetycznego.
And there was a
widzimy te
major
makrodziałania,
discussion
te
and
wielkie
very
plany,
important decisions made
inwestycyjne,
at the
działania
level of
gospodarcze,
administration
które
and
budują
state-owned
bezpieczeństwo
companies
naszej
to
ojczyzny. A tutaj
improve this
mieliśmy do czynienia
security.
z działaniem, które miało
And
się
that call
skupić na tym,
arrived
aby
and secured
w salonie domu
the
państwa
needs of
Kowalskich,
end customers, so
pod
that
Lublinem ludzie nie siedzieli
Polish
owinięci kołdrami, nie zamarzali,
did
tylko
not
żeby w tym
freeze
domu było ciepło, żeby
during
było
winter.
bezpiecznie,
It was
czyli o zapewnieniu
warm and
podstawowej
safe.
definicji bezpieczeństwa
So
energetycznego
in other words,
Polaków.
this is
W
what
ujęciu
I understand
mikro, w
as the
ujęciu, klasycznej polskiej
basic goal
rodziny.
of
I
energy
można by
security
było,
at a
odwołać się,
very micro
do
scale.
tych działań, które słychać było ze strony opozycji, niektórych
So
nielicznych,
indeed,
ale jednak wpływowych
we
samorządowców,
heard a lot of
mówiących o tym, że
criticism
właśnie,
from
polskie
the
rodziny będą
political
zamarzać,
opposition,
że
from some
szkoły będą
local
zamykane,
governments,
dlatego, że nie będzie można organizować
that the schools
zajęć, że szpitale będą
would be
ograniczały
closed,
przyjęcia, że
hospitals
domy
would not
pomocy
be
społecznej będą,
able to accept
wyłączane z
patients.
użytkowania, bo nie będzie surowca, nie będzie węgla.
They said it
I
would be
wtedy
cold
postawa
without,
tak bardzo zdecydowana rządu Prawa i Sprawiedliwości,
coal. And
to jasne działanie pana wicepremiera, ministra
bold and
aktywów
quick
państwowych
decisions
Jacka Sasina, który
of the government
we współpracy z
of
spółkami Skarbu
Jacek
Państwa,
Sasin,
z tym
Deputy
odpowiedzialnym
Prime
apelem do
Minister,
samorządów, powiedział, to
they
jest ta
appealed
część
to
naszej działalności,
local
która
governments
musi być wykonana. Właśnie w
to
interesie
say, let's
naszych
work
mieszkańców,
together,
w
let's
interesie
do it together
podstawowego
in the interest
bezpieczeństwa
of our
energetycznego
residents,
Polaków.
keep them
I
warm
dzisiaj po czasie
during winter,
trzeba powiedzieć, że te
and
decyzje
help
były
us
słuszne.
distribute
Te decyzje były
resources
konieczne,
evenly.
chociaż oczywiście można
And
było
I can say
wtedy powiedzieć, to nie jest
we
nasza
succeeded,
kompetencja. To nie jest nasz obowiązek.
although, of
Można
course,
było uciekać
some
od
of the
tego
colleagues
tematu,
from local governments
ale
might
to
have
byłoby
said,
zaprzeczeniem
it's not my business,
działania
it's not part of my
związanego
competence.
z tą ideą, która mówi o solidaryzmie, która mówi o społecznej
But this was a
odpowiedzialności
great
biznesu,
manifestation
również tego
of
biznesu, który
solidarity,
jest
of
prowadzony
responsibility
przez spółki
across
Skarbu Państwa. To jest ta idea, która
all levels of
mocno promuje
government,
obecny na sali pan profesor
and also
Zbigniew
across the
Krysiak
private
z
sector.
Instytutu Schumana, mówiącego o tym, że gospodarka,
As we
działania
heard yesterday
również
from Professor
spółek
Krysiak
Skarbu
from
Państwa, w tym
Schuman's
muszą być
Thought
oparte na
Institute,
pewnych wartościach.
we
Muszą być
have to
oparte na
rely on
ideałach.
certain
I te
ideals, certain
ideały
values,
państwa
whether we are a
sprawnego,
private
państwa
or state-owned
skutecznego,
business,
państwa, które
to
potrafi
make,
współpracować
to speak
na
one voice and
poszczególnych
make
szczeblach
the
swojego
country
działania,
as efficient as
jest
possible
oparte na wartościach.
at all
Dla
levels.
nawet pojedynczego człowieka,
So even for
do którego
an
w danej
individual
gminie ten węgiel miał dojechać.
who
Taka
was
była
waiting
idea
for the
i
call,
ona została zrealizowana.
he or she,
Oczywiście
the families,
nie
they
bez problemu,
got
nie
the
bez
coal
działań, bardzo
for
odważnych.
winter.
Tutaj wielkie podziękowania i dla rządu, dla wszystkich, którzy uczestniczyli
So I want to thank
w tej
everyone
operacji, dla prezesów spółek Skarbu Państwa, którzy
who
wtedy
made this
również podjęli
operation
się
successful,
odważnych decyzji w tym zakresie i wszystkich
members of the
niesamowitych polskich
government,
samorządowców, którzy
and
są
many
tutaj
local
obecni na sali,
government
bo
activists
często,
who did a great
faktycznie
job
wrażenie mogłoby
and
być takie,
worked
że polski
overtime,
samorząd
worked
jest jak
really
kilku
hard.
liderów, takich smerfów marudów, którzy mówią, że nic się nie da, nie można, nie
And
możemy,
trust
tak nie
me,
da się, są
Polish local
stosowane.
governments
A jednak
are not
polski
only
samorząd
there
jest,
to complain,
niesamowity,
to say that
jest to grupa ludzi odważnych,
it can't be done, it's
odpowiedzialnych,
impossible.
którzy,
There are
jeżeli
many
mają dobre narzędzia,
brave
takie jak
people,
zostały
responsible
stworzone
people.
w
If
tym
only they are
procesie,
given the right
chętnie z tego
tools,
skorzystają.
they will
Tak wyglądało
jump
to w
at the
Stalowej Woli.
opportunity
My od początku nie
to
mieliśmy
make them
żadnych
work. And that was the case
wątpliwości.
in my
Dzięki
town,
dobrej
in
współpracy
Stalowa
tym
Wola.
narzędziom, które zostały stworzone przez
The
pana
tools
wicepremiera
we received
Jacka
from the
Sasina,
government
spółki Skarbu Państwa, PGE,
with the assistance
Tauron pod
of
względem
state-owned
dostępu,
companies,
do
PGE,
bocznicy kolejowej
Tauron,
na starym bloku węglowym,
PKP,
elektrowni Stalowa Wola, PKP Cargo,
Cargo,
i samorząd, również spółki samorządowe.
and the regional
Tak
government,
istotne jest,
they
jak
all
państwo ma
work
swoje
together
dobre spółki do
to
tego, żeby mogło skutecznie zarządzać.
deliver
Tak
the
samo
call
miasto,
to
tak samo samorząd
make
musi
sure
mieć swoje
nobody
narzędzia
would
operacyjne
freeze
do tego, żeby skutecznie w takich
in the
procesach
winter season.
działać. I to zostało zrealizowane. Nie zostawiliśmy nikogo bez pomocy.
Nobody was
nikt nie
left
został,
behind.
a robiliśmy to też przy
Nobody
dużej
was
współpracy
left
samorządowej.
alone.
13 gmin z 2 powiatów,
And
które
mind you, there were
działały w tym
13
czasie. Trzeba
municipalities
powiedzieć, że to nie
working
tylko te
together
działania, które
in
były
concert.
podjęte na węglu, bo
And coal is not the only
pani
example
minister
of such a
Hanna
successful
Moskwa dostawała tą
cooperation.
istotną nagrodę,
Minister Moskva
kongresu.
has
I tu
just
można
received
było
the
laudację
Congress Award,
samorządową głosić przez
and
kilka dobrych godzin,
this is
wymieniając wszystkie
well
programy, które
deserved
powstawały
thanks
w tym
to the
czasie dla
many
samorządów.
programs,
No to
many
przecież ochrona
instruments
taryfowa
provided
gazowa
by the
dla
ministry.
instytucji wrażliwych, dla samorządów, dla
For example,
szpitali, dla
around
domów dziecka, dla
gas
szkół.
prices,
To również
gas
ochrona
prices
taryfowa
reductions
dla energii
for
elektrycznej,
educational
dla samorządów, dla
establishments,
instytucji
for
wrażliwych. To
social
wszystkie dodatki uruchomione
or
w tym
welfare
czasie
institutions,
dla naszych mieszkańców. Myślę, że
subsidies
ktoś powinien dostać nagrodę,
to
kto
energy
będzie w stanie
bills.
wymienić wszystkie te programy,
So
które w
many,
jednym
many
czasie
programs
zostały
and tools
uruchomione. I
given
pani
away
minister
to
była tą osobą,
individuals,
która koordynowała te
companies,
wszystkie działania.
institutions
To pokazuje sprawczość,
to
to
survive
pokazuje,
this very
aktywność
challenging
i odwagę
period
do tego, żeby działać.
of
I za to chciałbym
skyrocketing
bardzo serdecznie
gas
podziękować
and energy
wszystkim
prices.
tym,
So
którzy
I
w
want
tym
to
odważnym
really
procesie
thank
uczestniczyli,
everyone
wszystkim
who was part
zarządzającym
of this successful
spółkami Skarbu
process.
Państwa,
I want to thank
polskiemu rządowi,
the managements
samorządowcom,
of
którzy,
Polish companies,
z taką odwagą i determinacją
members of the
tutaj
central and local
działali.
governments.
Ale chciałbym jeszcze na koniec powiedzieć jedno zdanie
And finally,
mówiące o bezpieczeństwie energetycznym
speaking
właśnie
about
z wymiaru lokalnego,
energy security
mówiąc również
from
o
my local
działaniach
perspective.
gospodarczych. Dlatego, że w tym czasie
cannot
samorząd
ignore
Stalowej Woli
the
może
economic
obserwować
aspect,
wielką aktywność
because
spółek Skarbu Państwa
our local government can
w
see
obszarze bardzo istotnym dla
a
naszego
great
bezpieczeństwa
activity
gospodarczego,
and rising
a więc w
operations
procesie
of
pozyskiwania
state-owned
inwestorów
companies.
zagranicznych. W tym,
And I
aby
mean
nasz
the
region
process
Polski
of
Wschodniej był
inviting,
atrakcyjny,
attracting
aby był,
foreign
tym,
investors
który będzie tworzył
to
dobre
this
miejsca
part of
pracy,
Poland, to
atrakcyjne
our
miejsca pracy,
region.
musi być połączony z działaniami inwestycyjnymi spółek Skarbu Państwa. Kiedy patrzymy na
They
różnego rodzaju
partner
mapy
with
pokazujące
local companies
działalność
to generate
inwestycyjną,
more
silne
jobs
strony danego samorządu,
in
często
my and
patrzymy
in
na
this
drogi,
region.
często patrzymy na kolej, rzadziej
If you look
patrzymy na
at
sieć energetyczną.
how
Ale
effective
to właśnie
local
te
governments are, you
elementy
can
w ocenie
judge it by the
inwestorskiej
roads,
sprawiają
by
o tym,
railways.
że dane miejsce jest atrakcyjne
But what you
dla
cannot
dla
see
danego inwestora.
is how attractive
Jest z nami,
the place is as a
prezes grupy
destination
PGE, pan Wojciech
for
Dąbrowski,
investors.
który mógłby bardzo dużo powiedzieć o tym, jak grupa
And this is
podejmuje
absolutely
dzisiaj
relevant
działania, chociażby dla inwestora
for the well-being, for
koreańskiego, w Stalowej Woli, dla
level
innych inwestorów,
of
dokonując bardzo
living, standard of
istotnych
living for the local
procesów
population.
inwestycyjnych, zarówno w przyłączu energetycznym, jak również w miksie energetycznym, decydując o tym, żeby kilka miliardów złotych zainwestować w ten obszar, dając pewność
there were
energii
major
elektrycznej, ale również inwestując w energię
investments
słoneczną,
coming to
inwestując w
my
energię
region,
wiatrową. Do tego
whether in the
planowane
area of energy,
inwestycje,
like wind energy,
PKN Orlen
or
z
new connections,
Syntosem,
new
a więc plan
grids,
na
new
emeryt,
lines.
w naszej strefie ekonomicznej, tak,
Our
aby właśnie Polskę
economic
wschodnią,
zone
nasz
also
teren
attracts
budować siłą tego, co stanowi
very
później o decyzji
strong
inwestycyjnej.
investors with
Energetyka,
very
energetyka,
innovative
jeszcze
solutions
raz
and
energetyka.
projects
A do tego możemy
in
dodawać
and
inne
around
komponenty.
energy.
Jeżeli Polska lokalna nie
If you
będzie uzbrojona
keep in
właśnie,
mind
w silne elementy energetyczne, dzięki działaniom
how
spółek
important
Skarbu
it is
Państwa,
to
będziemy przegrywać konkurencję
make
od
local
inwestorów zagranicznych.
Poland,
A dzięki
self-governments
aktywnej polityce
stronger
inwestycyjnej
with various
tych spółek
instruments, with
dzisiaj
powerful investors.
Polska może być dumna
We
z tego, że
will be
pozyskuje kolejnych
very likely
wielkich
to lose the
inwestorów
race
zagranicznych.
against
Przy okazji
foreign
rozmowy
counterparts
o kryzysie
against
węglowym
competition
pojawił się
from
kolejny
other
bardzo
countries.
ważny aspekt. Od wybuchu wojny na
Thank
Ukrainie
you.
pojawiało się dużo
Since the
działań
outbreak
mających
of
na
the war in
celu
Ukraine,
sianie dezinformacji, pobudzanie
we have
niepokojów społecznych.
very often
Z różnych
experienced
kierunków biegały różne głosy,
Russian
często
propaganda,
nieprawdziwe, całkowicie wypaczające
fake
rzeczywistość.
news,
Chciałbym zapytać pana prezesa Pawła
messages
Majewskiego, jako
distorting the
przedstawiciela
reality.
spółki energetycznej, prezesa
So
zarządu,
my question is
grupy Enea.
to
Panie
Mr.
prezesie, jak pan ocenia, czy Polska jest
Majewski from
bezpieczna
Enea.
energetycznie, czy Polacy
Do you
mogą
think
spać
Poland
spać
is
spokojnie,
secure
mogą czuć się bezpiecznie
in terms
pod
of
tym kątem?
energy, in terms of what we hear
Oczywiście tak.
about energy in the
Zacznę
news?
może od tego, że wybuchowi wojny na Ukrainie, tej agresji rosyjskiej na Ukrainę, towarzyszył kryzys energetyczny.
Well, the outbreak of the war coincided
Rozpoczął się
with the energy
przez działania
crisis
Rosji w ramach takiej, można powiedzieć, wojny hybrydowej.
because it started a bit earlier through the hybrid war in mid-2021. During that time, Russia started to limit supplies of fuels to Russia, to Europe. And in Poland, we had been getting ready to say goodbye to Russian carbohydrates before, to grow our energy independence through diversification of supplies. Then, of course, nobody was really 100% ready to face that scale of the crisis. So it was indeed a great challenge. And I think we faced it boldly, successfully, together with the Polish government.
Można powiedzieć, bardzo zwielokrotnionym wysiłkom spółek
And there was a huge effort of state-owned companies that joined forces to counteract that hybrid war.
W wojnie hybrydowej, bo z taką mamy do czynienia, oprócz agresji militarnej, która
And besides the military aggression that we can watch in Ukraine, this is also information war. This is energy war. There are cases of sabotage in many locations against critical infrastructure. We've had cases of raising gas prices that led to a 15-fold increase in costs. So, and as you say, disinformation and propaganda was all around it, and it has not stopped. So what should be our response?
Dać się zbić z tropu. Nie należy schodzić z raz obranej drogi. Myśmy dosyć konsekwentnie w dalszym ciągu kontynuowali, a nawet przyspieszyli działania związane z dywersyfikacją.
We must hold to our original assumptions, objectives, don't get ourselves be fooled. Of course, it costs money. If you want to keep relatively low prices of energy, of gas for individual recipients, for those most vulnerable, it must cost money, and this cost is incurred by energy companies. But they, as I said, hold the line, they keep investing in renewables to make the Polish economy totally independent in the future. We are already independent from supplies from Russia, while keeping investing in a power grid that would be capable enough to accept, to process, distribute energy from renewables. This is all done thanks to great support of the Polish government. We don't allow energy poverty to become reality, to be actually sensed by end recipients, and it all must be set within some European reality. We are bound by European laws, European regulations. And this is where Fit for 55 should be given particular attention, because of certain reflection on how to be independent energy-wise, how to get relatively cheap energy, affordable energy.
w niektórych krajach Unii.
We can see there is a reflection
Dzieje się tak także pod wpływem
across the EU.
działań naszego rządu i naszych polityków, którzy cały czas mocno
Perhaps this is
akcentują
also thanks to the pressure from our politicians, our government, who keep repeating at the European Forum that we should slow down this transition, or at least reduce the pressure on departing from carbohydrates. So we have heard President Macron or President Weber saying that maybe we should press pause and stop pushing towards complete departure from carbohydrates and perhaps slow down this greening of Europe, because the more we press, the stronger Chinese technologies become in terms of their presence on the European market. And I feel that more and more decision makers understand that. Of course, we will not give up this transition, but perhaps we should reconsider. Maybe we should slow down so that we remain secure and can deliver energy at an affordable price in a stable way, of course, from zero-emission sources in the future.
Last year, the global energy crisis showed us that the capital has a nationality, that it matters who is the owner of these strategic enterprises. And there are political circles that claim privatization of SOEs is the only way. So, Mr. Kwieciński, in your opinion, do you think that energy companies should be state-owned? Should state treasury be involved in capital terms in such enterprises? I think that the recent years have answered this question very well, because Poland, Polish economy, there was one of few that was prepared for the shocks. Perhaps, European countries may not like it, but in fact, our energy sector relies to a large extent on coal, and the coal that we mine, that we extract. So this ensured us stability. And few countries in Europe had been so well prepared for the shocks. Another thing, the state had controlled the sector, the industry, but also the finance sector. So there's a bitter lessons that we learned after 2008-09 financial crisis, and when the banking sector didn't want to finance the economy, except for the Polish banks, the PKO BP, the Bank of National Economy, but other banks simply didn't want to finance the domestic operators, and that's something what we saw last year. And the energy market, there was a huge demand for working capital, and our banks supplied that working capital. And of course, also thanks to the special legislation, there was an excellent cooperation of the business with the government to ensure the energy security in Poland. And as Mr. Director said, but also Mr. President, now it seems natural, but we pushed through the winter time quite comfortably. Well, the winter wasn't so severe, of course, it helped us, but don't let's forget that it was a major challenge for the entire European Union last year, how to push through the winter time.
So
the fact that the state has a control of that, it's not 100% control. Well, all the SOEs are stock listed, so they are examined and verified by the investors, by analysts. We have shareholders among institutions, among individuals, and so on. So it's not 100% control of the state by the shareholding, but the fact that there's a excellent cooperation between us and the government, and that there is a degree of control by the state, it ensures us the security. And we have never had such good performance done in recent times. We've got good plans for the future, and in the banking sector we simply ponder from time to time whether or not we can maintain our financing capacities in the future or not. Mind you, we source from our own funds and the financing sector that we use. So it's a good lesson that we have learned, and let's be honest, we are praised for that around the world. And our economic position in the European Union has been growing fast, as the capacity of the sector, of the economy itself, translating into the prosperity, into the wealth of our society. So in relation to the European average, the wealth level of Poland has never been so close. But without security, broadly understood, but especially the energy security, we will not guarantee further growth. So in summary, we might say that we are secure in terms of energy supplies, and that we have comfortably pushed through the energy crisis over the last year, and that the Polish government had taken preemptive actions to, well, since 2015, SOEs went for diversification for projects like Baltic Pipe, that is so important now. Poland diversified the aid supplies with the PGNiG, the Polish gas company, and this discussion shows us that the Polish energy and that energy SOEs and Polish banks are key in times of crisis, but also the last year has shown us that it's really critical that the government, SOEs and the local governments work together in a mechanism to guarantee stability and security also in the energy sector. Thank you very much for your inputs and contribution to the discussion. We are running out of time just now, so Mr. Marshal, Mr. Professor, congratulations on this excellent event. Thank you very much for the opportunity for us to be here as experts in so many fields. Our panelists will stay at this Congress day 2, so they will be available for contact in the backstage. So thank you very much for your attention for now.
Serdecznie gratulujemy i my także bardzo dziękujemy za takie owocne
And we join your congratulations and thank you very much for the
energetycznego.
very illustrative discussion on energy security and for the optimistic conclusion.
Pięknie dziękujemy panelistom. A przed nami kolejna dyskusja.
Thank you very much. Now, once again, now we are going to have another session, another panel. Will focus on energy transition and its role in the
Tytuł tego
three
panelu to
SI
Bezpieczeństwo energetyczne
nations.
Polski i Europy.
The title of the panel discussion is Energy Security of Poland and Europe. The partner
Dyskusję będzie
of the
moderował
debate is the
Jakub
Ministry of
Wiech,
Climate
redaktor
and
naczelny
Environment,
portalu
and it will be
Energetyka24.com.
moderated by Jakub Wiech, the editor-in-chief of Energetyka24.com portal, with participation of Anna Moskwa, Minister of Climate and Environment,
Łączy się z nami online.
German Galushenko, Minister of Energy of Ukraine, will be with us online, Wojciech Dąbrowski from PGSA, Kasjan Wyligała from Bogdanka SA, Łukasz Młynarkiewicz from Polish Nuclear Power Plants Company, Artur Michalski and Iwona Paksmunska-Olejniczak from PKL Orlen Strategy and Sustainable Development Department. Please join us on the stage. All is set and we can start
Zapraszamy na scenę
discussion now.
kolejnych panelistów. Bardzo serdecznie zapraszamy na scenę kolejnych panelistów. Może pan Jakub Wiech, redaktor naczelny portalu Energetyka24.com.
Okay, we have
Zainicjuje.
our moderator, Mr. Jakub Wiech. Can you please gather your speakers on
Tak,
stage?
zapraszamy na scenę wszystkich tych, którzy są już gotowi. Będziemy
So,
rozmawiać o transformacji energetycznej i jej roli
you're ready,
w
please
obszarze inicjatywy
Step up on stage, take
Trójmorza.
your seats,
Pani
pick
minister
up your
Anna
microphone.
Moskwa, kończy udzielać wywiadu i dołączy do
can see,
panelistów za
Madam
dosłownie
Minister
za kilka minut.
Moskwa is in the middle of her interview. I believe she will be able to join the panel in a couple of minutes.
Czekamy na panią minister Annę Moskwę, minister klimatu i środowiska.
So we are waiting for Minister Anna Moskwa.
Kilka minut.
She'll be joining us within a couple of minutes.
To my w tym czasie oczekiwania na panią minister
So in the meantime,
partnerów strategicznych i partnerów w ogóle,
let us
bez
remind you
których
of the
kongres i
strategic
to
partners
wydarzenie
and
nie
regular
mogłoby
partners
się
without whom
odbyć. Serdecznie
this event wouldn't have taken
dziękujemy i
place.
oczywiście prosimy o więcej
Thank you very much,
zaangażowania.
and
A partnerami
we would
strategicznymi
invite you
są
to
KGHM, Polska
give us even more
SA,
support.
Polski Koncern Naftowy Orlen S.A.,
PKO Bank Polski SA.
PZU Powszechny Zakład Ubezpieczeń S.A.,
Partnerami wydarzenia są Agencja Rozwoju Przemysłu SA,
Bank Gospodarstwa Krajowego,
Bank PKO SA,
Lubelski Węgiel Bogdanka S.A., Enea S.A.,
Giełda Papierów Wartościowych,
Grupa Azoty Puławy S.A.,
Krajowa Grupa Spożywcza, właściciel marki Polski Cukier,
LHS Linia Hutnicza Szerokotorowa Spółka ZOO,
Grupa OX2,
Polska Agencja Inwestycji Handlu Grupa PFR,
PFR Portal PPK,
PG Polska Grupa Energetyczna S.A.
Polskie Koleje Państwowe SA,
i Totalizator Sportowy, właściciel marki Lotto. Ważną informacją jest też, że
A piece of important information during the Congress at the entrance hall.
Wystawione takie stoiska,
You will have
które
stands
także swój udział mają w
set
przygotowaniu
by
i
the
organizacji
companies that have contributed to the organization of this Congress, so why don't you visit those stands? You'll have a very attractive offer
czekamy na panią minister Annę
for cooperation from the
Moskwę,
region.
natomiast pana Jakuba
We
Wiecha
are
prosiła o
waiting for
rozpoczęcie panelu.
Minister
Pani minister po
Anna
prostu,
Moskwa,
dołączy do
but
rozmowy.
Jakub Wiech, why don't you just start the discussion? Madam Minister will join you. Hello, I'm Jakub Wiechał. It will be my pleasure to moderate this discussion. Energy security in times of couple of crises, energy crisis, the climate crisis, war crisis, and the ongoing pandemic crisis that has an impact on the markets. I'm really glad to see so many experts in so many fields of expertise from so many regions. My first question goes to Mr. Dąbrowski. We are talking about energy security in the times of transition. How the energy transition impacted your position as energy company? The energy transition takes a lot of funding, first of all. So don't let's forget, we are responsible for the transition. We are much involved. The whole sector is in the process. Renewables generation that grows by the year. It's 30%, more than 30% this year. It's a success of the Polish energy sector, the energy the companies, but also prosumers. Don't let's forget, the solar boom that provided for more than 5 gigawatts together between prosumers and the energy companies with all the heating pumps, so widespread now. So because of that, Poland is a European leader in energy transition, as confirmed by the Kadri Simpsons and Mr. Timmermans. Well, it is Poland that is growing fastest in its renewables sector. But let's also remember that renewables, unfortunately, cannot guarantee us energy security because it can only supplement the conventional or stable energy. Renewables will never be stable. And of course, it's a future discussion. The support for renewables, the energy storage to accompany the renewables generation to stabilize the system and contribute to energy security. So it's a huge project that's ahead of us. Ahead the fund, ahead the SOEs, but also ahead of the European Union. The discussion on the energy storage facilities so far in the European Union has been unsatisfactory, but it's key to ensuring that we live up to the expectations. Now, we are expert in energy, so we'll confirm that the stable sources are key, and now what's stable is gas and nuclear. But then for the future, for the nearest future, gas supported by the SMRs, the large scale, the nuclear is the future of Polish energy sector, of our future the energy sovereignty, totally independent of energy supplies from the east. It's simply a must, as supported, of course, by renewables, the solar energy, the heating pumps, and so on. Hello and welcome, Madam Minister. Please join us on the stage. Just to give you some context, the energy crisis over the last 8 months, how the crisis that started actually before Russia's aggression on Ukraine, what was the impact on the Polish energy companies? Did it accelerate or slow down the energy transition? Well, as Polish Energy Group, we adopted the zero emissivity strategy by 2015. We are a leader in offshore wind farms. So this is the element that will replace or will be the main driving factor for renewables in Poland. Today we are in progress with 3.7 gigawatts, and if the licenses, preliminary licenses, will be when they become valid, then we'll have another 3.7 gigawatts in offshore wind farms. While other energy companies implement their projects in the Baltic Sea. So the Baltic Sea will be a reservoir of the energy for Poland. The point is to ensure as much local content in these investment projects as possible. This is what we care about, of course. But mind you, energy transition is happening, and the energy crisis triggered by the Russian aggression on Ukraine just made everyone aware that it's simply a must. This direction is a must to make ourselves independent from energy sources from the East. And it demonstrated to all politicians across the European Union that we need to diversify our supplies. We must not become or stay dependent on energy from the East. And the decision makers in Poland became aware that nuclear projects should be speeded up, both in terms of large-scale and small-scale SMRs and all other distributed nuclear, because it's the only way forward for the future. And now, this sector is growing really fast, fastest in Europe, really, and it will give us energy security. Of course, it all takes huge costs, but if we want to be independent, if we want to be sovereign, we need to invest. And the SOEs must have investment resources. If we want to be secure, we need to invest today. So, Madam Minister, a question to you in the context of energy crisis that we have just touched on. Over the last dozen or so months, Europe has spent approximately 800 billion euros to maintain energy security. Poland's spending was also considerable. Was it enough to ensure energy security for Europe and for Poland? And what's, in your opinion, the trajectory be in the future and in the coming months and years? That's an impressive amount if we take into account 2021, 2022, and the support that Poland has given to its citizens was one of the earliest and one of the largest, relatively speaking. But apart from the financial dimension, the last year, and the situation is continuing now, it was the main objective was cooperation and dialogue. So there's a huge challenge for energy security, and we have worked on a regular basis with the energy security team that is still in place. Huge effort by the SOEs, by the central and local governments, and by citizens. So the savings effect, up to 10%, let me remind you, have triggered the expected outcomes, kind of a social pact, a social covenant that has been tacitly made between all the stakeholders, together with the preparation for the challenges, have made us successful. And this preparation effort is not only about the energy policy and its updates, but it's also about delegation of responsibility for energy security to local governments, the cluster-based, dispersed, distributed energy. A couple of years ago, local governments, when someone had said that local governments would be responsible for governments, that would be unimaginable, that would be, absurd. Now, local governments have the bills to pay. They know that how to save energy. And this times of crisis just speeded up those awareness raising the process. Mind you, the whole patterns and paradigms have shifted. We wouldn't be where we are today in our discussion about nuclear if not for the crisis. We wouldn't be where we are in terms of discussion on the renewables energy storage facilities if it weren't for the energy crisis. So we may have been successful so far. However, the level of challenges that we face as the government, as local governments and SOEs require good preparations, and we are well prepared to meet the challenge. You mentioned that the crisis raised awareness among Poles as to savings, but also as to the need for changes in the energy sectors. Can this awareness be the driving force for energy transition, for building a new energy system in Poland? I'm quite certain that this awareness will stay with us, and you will know it yourself, judged by the visit statistics at your website. Among Polish families, it's not only football or politics that appears in Polish discussions or home talks. Now we all know the energy consumption peaks. We know what's the need for the diversification, about stability of supply and the variety of weather conditions. So we are now aware how important it is to ensure stability of supply. And we know that in many countries, they had to make a very quick decision whether or not to continue with Russian supplies of gas. Today, we know that the green transition is not only about security, it's about competitiveness of the economy. Not only the economy of member states, but the economy of the European Union as such. That's why the incentives, that's why the programs for awareness raising, for increasing social acceptability of nuclear, for instance. We are quite satisfied with the figures that result from the polls. We hope to get even better results. And the energy sector is not about security, it's also about economy, as I said. It's competitiveness, it's attraction of investors and readiness of Europe as a whole to meet the challenges related to energy transition. You mentioned that energy is about economy in the first place. So for citizens, the crisis meant huge disruption. But for Ukraine, it's a huge destruction of energy infrastructure and the paralysis. So
in the Ukrainian energy system, because you have been the target of the Russian brutal attacks through the last several months. What's the current situation in the Ukrainian energy sector?
Madam Minister, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to participate in this event on behalf of Minister German Galushchenko. I would like to start by saying that Russia's military campaign in 2022-2023, which was aimed at turning winter into a weapon, failed, completely failed. We withstood it thanks to the support of our international partners, so far under the coordination of the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine, has received more than 7,000 tons of different type of equipment from 31 countries. More than 150 tons came from Poland. And that's why European solidarity very important, and this is what European solidarity looks like. Thank you for this support. I also have to acknowledge the courage and creativity of our energy specialists who have kept the energy system operating under unprecedented military circumstances. But Russia caused significant damage to our energy infrastructure with its all type of missiles and drones. About 50% of the energy system was affected. All thermal power plants and hydroelectric power plants were damaged. This is really difficult situation. More than 60 gigawatts of our main installed capacities are not available to the Ukrainian grid. They are under control by enemy. And Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe, remains occupied. And situation there quite sensitive and quite fragile. Dear colleagues, damage to the energy sector estimated above $10 billion by the World Bank. The estimated needs to reconstruction and rebuilding an energy sector 11% of a total Ukraine's recovery investment needs. And the World Bank estimated war-related lost revenue in energy like $27 billion. It's a huge amount of US dollars which could be sent to the rebuilding. Nevertheless, today's domestic generation fully covers our consumption. And generation from renewable energy sources is seasonally high, quite high. And thanks to floods, hydroelectric power plants continue to operate not only during peak hours, but also throughout the day. And the situation is really quite good. The most difficult situation remains in the border and frontline region, in particular in Donetsk, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson region. Situation really very difficult. But generation facilities and transmission lines, both in these territories, are being damaged. As a result, some consumers are left without electricity supply in these territories. And today, all our efforts are focused primarily on restoring energy supply to Ukrainian consumers and preparing for the next winter and for the hot summer weather. And we understand that this is really a huge challenge in this period of time. I would like to know that restoring the power system requires us not only to repair damaged facilities, but also to carry out scheduled work. In particular, we have started planned repair activities at nuclear power plants. And all repairs are now synchronized between the ministry and the energy company, generating companies, and so that consumers do not feel the impact of the repair campaign, do not feel huge impact. Of course, if Russia missiles will not hit main energy facilities, but they try to do it every day, the situation will be quite sustainable. Thanks to our synchronization with NCE, we always have the option to start importing electricity from the EU. This gives us confidence that we will be able to get through the hot summer and probably through next winter if we will need this import of electricity. In general, finally, our government is currently focused with all of our international partners, including with Poland, on the first of all, preparing for the next heating season. And in this regard, we restoring of generating facilities and our grids. And the second is stockpile of equipment and fuel that we can use in the case of new terrorist attack from Russia. And we have hub in Poland, and thanks for this contribution, thanks for this support. And of course, decentralization of energy is our next priority, and we could cooperate with Poland to have your experience in creating distributed generation through the installation of solar panels, storage system, and of course, in our case, very important to have mobile gas generator will help keep power system less vulnerable for possible terrorist attacks from Russia in the future. And the last but not the least, demining of energy infrastructure is critical for recovery in Ukraine. We really have to clear energy facilities and surrounding areas, and this is priority because it is quite dangerous to start rebuilding. Colleagues, we still need in-kind support and donation to the Energy Support Fund created by the Energy Community Secretariat for procurement, needed equipment, and a lot should be done before this winter period of time. Thank you again, Madam Minister. Thank you for your personal attention and support. Over to you.
Thank you, Minister. We all hope that with this tremendous effort of Ukrainian engineers and energy system workers and with the international help, your country will be completely resilient on this kind of attacks conducted by Russia that are actually another war crimes committed by this country. Thank you once again. Teraz wracamy do Polski. Chciałbym zapytać o to, jak my poradziliśmy sobie z kryzysem energetycznym, a konkretnie jak pewne bardzo specyficzne paliwo dało sobie radę w tym czasie. To pytanie kieruję do pana prezesa Wyligały, mianowicie jak węgiel.
My question to President Wyligała. Tell me about the role of coal in recent months and how it helped tackle the energy crisis. Well, Russia's invasion of Ukraine that started last year was some sort of a reality check for certain concepts, trends, ideologies across the EU. Just take a look at how the European energy policy had been planned. A few days before the outbreak of the war, Germany powered down their nuclear units. They want to rely more on gas and renewables, and the conflict in Ukraine wreaked havoc with the market of carbohydrates, and we were forced to import coal from very distant, very, I would say, exotic destinations. So as a country with relatively large coal deposits and infrastructure based on burning coal, we were not able to satisfy our own needs. And the new updates to PEP 2040, thanks to our government's effort, we saw that the Polish coal can be a transition fuel in place of gas that was originally intended as a transition fuel. And in Poland, as Bogdanka, coal mine, we joined the government program of coal supplies to municipalities, also coordinated by two ministries. We have been able to supply coal to 150 municipalities, and because we mainly supply to energy or business clients, we had to switch to be able to satisfy the needs of individual consumers, which was quite a challenge. Coal extraction grows all over the world, and there is more and more power generated from coal, except for the territory of the European Union. Of course, we can see a certain renaissance, certain revival of coal in some European countries. Some countries seem to rely more and more on coal these days. They slowed down the process of decommissioning of their mines. Of course, I mean particularly Germany. But we can see that this transition policy doesn't slow down. Let's take the last draft methane directive, which limits coal production and accelerates the dissolution of mining companies. Thanks to the action of several governments, including Polish one, we have been able to mitigate some of the effects of this draft law. But just have a look at the idea of energy transition in the EU. How can you implement methane directive to kill hard coal mines at the same time promising that 54% of energy in 2050 will be generated by wind? And to build one wind turbine, you need several hundred tons of steel, which is made of coal, among other things. You need other metals to do it, so you cannot transform the energy system without extraction of minerals. So that's why our SMR concept of small nuclear power plants to be more diverse and more secure in terms of energy supplies. So do you see any change in the European Union in terms of thinking about coal-driven energy? Because it seems like more and more countries over the last year rely to a greater extent on coal, not only Poland. Well, we don't see any long-term trends. Of course, our company, Bogdanka, works on diversifying our revenue portfolio. We know 2049 is the cut-off date for extraction in our mine, so we are going to be the longest operating mine in Poland. By this time, I believe we'll have been able to diversify enough to fill the revenue gap. It seems to be a distant period. A lot of things can change. Like 25 or 6 years ago, nobody expected Poland to be part of NATO and EU. So we also try to secure our resources by getting environmental permits. So if the trends reverse, we will also be ready to find ourselves in the new situation. Well, look at the position of a multi-energy concern. So my question to Orlen. Iwona Olejniczak, what conclusions have you drawn out of the local and global developments in the energy sector? Well, thank you in the first place for having me on this panel. I've been listening to the discussions so far today, and we heard a lot about the crisis period, how we went through it. Of course, we have to learn the lessons, draw conclusions, but let me say that a multi-energy concern that we are building, and we started this process some years ago. We started perhaps in 2019, when President Obajtek already took the steer of Orlen. Our first step was to acquire Energa, a power generator, with a very green strategy, but without actually implementing that strategy for the lack of funds. Then in 2020, we closed the process of acquiring Energa. We published a new strategy with specific goals, among other things, to build strong, diversified, multi-energy concern. There was also a concept of merging with Lotos and PGNiG. So now we are fully diversified, well-balanced and strong, robust energy player. We have weathered the crisis caused by the war in Ukraine, and of course, time full of challenges, full of operational effort, many decisions taken in very non-standard or unfavorable conditions. And I trust that the Orlen Group has been able to secure Polish recipients in terms of gas and fuel supplies. So diversification at Orlen started many years ago. Diversification of imports of crude oil, of production of various petrochemical products. We were also able to grow extraction and production in Poland and abroad. We extract 8 billion cubic meters. We are going to grow it to 12 billion cubic meters, which fully satisfies countries' gas demands. Infrastructure is one thing, supplies of gas is another. In terms of infrastructure, I can say we are almost ready. The Baltic Pipe is ready. The Świnoujście terminal, which is being extended, we also use the terminal in Klaipėda, Lithuania, and we are also extending our storage capacity. We have been able to secure Polish needs during the winter seasons of the last 3 years. So I can say we have done our homework, and what we were building over the couple of years has proven effective. We are a very strong company with a very strong position in East Central Europe. And this company, as I said, well diversified, well balanced, with investment power, makes us to have a very good starting point for the transition period. In our strategy up to 2030, we are going to spend 130 billion zlotys into various investments. Out of this figure, a large share to be expended on green in the transition. We want to grow our business in the region, and we want to go through the transition process effectively. For the EU, this energy transition is not only about climate and environment, it's all about reinventing certain business models, strategies. It's all about profitability too, but with a greater focus on renewables and alternative fuels. When it comes to renewables, we want to be able to generate more than 9 gigawatts of energy by 2030. We are developing nuclear technologies and the development of small reactors that will help us stabilize energy resources. So the time for lessons, for conclusions is behind us. We were able to confirm that we are making for the right direction, that the objectives are right, and we keep growing a robust company that will promise the security of Poland and Poles.
Thank you very much. We have mentioned repeatedly the nuclear power sector. Now it's time to focus on that. So the question goes to Mr. Młynarkiewicz. Where are we with the first Polish nuclear plant, the project that you are involved in? Madam Minister, Mr. Marshal, ladies and gentlemen, the investment project operated by the company fits into the Polish government's policy. There's 2 large-scale the power plants, the most advanced 3+ technology, which is safe, which is stable. And for the first one, we have selected the technology supplier, we have selected the location. Now we are working hard on the funding model for the plant. And today we can split this project into 4 areas. First of all, permitting, subject to regulatory requirements, is very difficult to meet. Now we are at the process of the environmental permits, quite advanced really. We have completed cross-border consultations with 7 countries, including Germany. So the very good discussions that we have had with our partners, with full mutual understanding, and the consultation process have been concluded with no reservations on the part of our German friends, with the conclusion that it's a safe technology for cross-border impact. Westinghouse will be the supplier AP1000 technology, and as per the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, this technology will be located in Lubiatovo Kopalino, in the coastline area. It's a proven technology as demonstrated in Georgia, US projects. This investment is really necessary in times of crisis, energy crisis triggered by Russia's aggression on Ukraine. So we are actually the first to provide, the whole vision for the nuclear. We're the first to apply for the basic the decision to confirm the vision for Poland for energy power, and this I would treat it. I mean, it is a strategic vision. We've got our strategy to launch the first plant by 2033. This year we are planning to apply for the decisions. As to the business case, then in December last year we signed the agreement with Westinghouse for delivery of the technology. In February this year we signed the first contract for pre-design phase. So we are moving from concept design to the design phase now. The contract is in progress. Now we are finalizing our talks on the consortium, the establishment. Bechtel would be the consortium partner as the contractor for the EPC. The EPC contractorship was our preferred model, not only because of our commercial requirements or business requirements, but also under EU regulations. And we believe that this process will be concluded very soon. Then I hope we'll successfully announce this in due time. What we would like to have by the end of September is to sign a contract for the proper design work as a major milestone in the project. So first of all, permitting, then the regulatory, the design. Then the third area is consultative process, 60 meetings with local governments, citizens, completed last year for Chocheva and Gniewino municipalities. We have been operating there for 8 years. Now we've got the information centers located there as part of our CSR initiatives. So we're listening to what people and local governments governments have to say to us, what they need from us, so that we can pursue these difficult investment projects together. The fourth one is the financing model. Well, the works are quite advanced, I would say. You know, the sourcing of funds for the project is not only about it's not finance as such for the company. It's also about cooperation with the government, but also it's about the endorsement of the project by the markets. So we are going to complete the market consultations by the end of this year to enable us to deliver stable zero emission generation of electricity. There's a renaissance of nuclear power plants across the world now, and accounting for 130 gigawatts of installed capacity in total, 1/4 of which is installed in the European Union. So 1/4 of the total energy consumption is covered from the nuclear power plants. So the trend that you can see in the three SI nations is for, again, renaissance of the nuclear power. So the total under construction projects account for 2 gigawatts now. The planned installed capacity is 80 for the European Union. I'm quite pleased that after a couple of years where the European Union was absent from the discourse on the energy mix, the discussion in the EU on nuclear is gaining momentum. We are talking about large scale and small scale generation, and mind you, the energy mix can accommodate for all these investment projects. And as a company, we are the most advanced operator, being at the forefront of nuclear power in Poland, and we hope we can keep the pace with the rest of the world. So let me just clarify: 2033 as the launch date for the first power plant is not at any risk. Well, there are plenty of risks, in the construction of a nuclear power plant. The deadline is realistic. It's very ambitious, yes, but we take action both together with the Minister of Climate and Environment, so as to optimize the construction process, to keep the deadline. And as to 2023, yes, well, it's not at risk at this moment. Next question goes to Mr. Michalski. We have spoken a lot about the economy, the cost to economy from the energy crisis, the cost that was that actually impacted, our personal budgets as well. But everyone here says we should go ahead with energy transition that takes costs, huge cost. The question is how to fund the climate policy of the European Union and the energy policy of Poland, as provided for in the strategy in 2040 the policy. Of course, these amounts mentioned during the discussion are really huge, and these are funds that we don't have at hand. The point is that, and we are lucky to have the kind of funding system for sustainable development. This is the broad term I will use here. The system is to fund a range of sectors for sustainable development, and the majority are funds earmarked for energy transition, of course. Mr. Dombrovski will require, astonishing funds to carry on with energy transition in the energy group. So just mention the stabilization of the energy grid that needs some support or huge support after the boom in the renewables and prosumer generation. Must be supported with energy storage facility. So we have approved the program for power transmission operators, the first 1 billion zloty for such projects. Perhaps it's not much, for a start, but it will. It's to demonstrate the opportunities, the capacities for making the grid flexible and stable, to adapt to the trend, let's say, the drive towards kind of autonomous generation or self-generation, among Polish citizens, is something that has caught us by surprise somehow. It's a huge increase in connections, in capacity from renewables that needs stabilization. Wind or solar only cannot provide stable energy systems, but with the investment in renewables and especially the solar panels among prosumers, we succeeded in in getting a positive export balance. Last year, it's over 2 gigawatts that we exported. Last year, auto consumption not included in that calculation. But speaking about funds, the huge funds will rely on the fund on the national and district and municipal levels, provided for in the strategies of local government units. It's a whole system that Minister Shishko used to call the kind of the armed forces of the Minister of Climate and Environment. I mean, it's national, its own funds at your disposal, Madam Minister, and with these funds available to the national fund, our local governments, our companies, even without prosumers, all these entities gathered in all the programs that we operate and the investments that have been possible through the funding system have accounted for 500 million zloty worth the projects. So again, it was domestic funds that we only count here. So it was our in-house effort to achieve so significant results in energy transition. And again, a variety of stakeholders involved, local governments included. Mr. Gaworek is present here. And for energy itself, what we have earmarked is approximately 80% of total funding. The remainder is for other activities or other sectors. And again, to emphasize the scale, the National Fund has for several years now contributed to the funding of individual private projects or projects operated by natural persons. Local funds or branches have had better relations with consumers, with private investors. Now the national level fund works with natural persons as well. There's one more thing that I need to comment on. We have launched projects for stabilization of the grid, the renewable generation in the Polish rural areas. Of course, big cities are quite secure in these terms, but Polish rural areas still struggle with power outages, electricity outages. So this is especially key for the sensitive big farms. So it's really key that these farms can have their own energy sources, and with that in mind, we have started programs to stabilize the energy supply for such rural areas, that is the energy storage facilities. So it's a big step forward, I would say, to ensure flexibility, to ensure stability, and then to reduce the shocks to electricity grids. And looking broadly, whole Europe, aren't you afraid that energy transition will slow down? If only because it appeared it required 800 billion euros to keep up, in crisis. It's a huge cost. Well, a couple of years ago, a decision was made. That was Brussels' decision. Really. Our programs were deprived of any options to fund fossil fuel-related projects. Even before, commercial banks refused to finance any fossil fuel projects because that was not green, that was not fashionable, and so on. But as a fund, as a funding provider, we should be able to show that you can make savings on coal as well. If you reduce emissions from coal generation by half, then it's quite a success. So it's really important that the Minister of Climate and Environment can make autonomous decisions about the future directions and future possibilities to direct the funding. For the time being, we've got enough funds, and then there are the programs that we don't have enough enrollment of relevant projects. And of course, most of these funds will require the approvals also from the bodies of the European Union. But still, in the dialogue that we are having, and with decision-making capacity on the part of the minister, yes, we can prepare good argumentation, and we can convince the institutions to approve the programs. So a dozen of billion zloty is now available to the projects. So please be invited to apply. And I'm talking not only to the biggest companies, but also to local government and enterprises. And let me add, we are also boosting our financing of the most stable renewable projects, the most preferred sources, that is micro hydro generators, and with some returnable funding instruments, and biogas, where we have grant or subsidy up to 60% of the eligible cost for farmers. So it shows us that we have some preferences for future directions, for the more stable directions, to diversify, to make the system stable, and to make for the clustering, for the distributed energy system. This shows us, this shows the nation that it's a priority for us and is in line with social expectations, and it's happening. Thank you very much. These matters could take long hours to discuss. However, we have just run out of time. So thank you very much for your contributions, for your inputs to the discussion, for your observations on the recent months, and your opinions on the challenges that are ahead of us. Thank you very much, Jakub Wiech, and see you in the next panels at this forum. Thank you. Thank you very much for this very energetic discussion. Gentlemen, 3Cs Local Government Congress. Oh, please don't forget the family photo. It's a new tradition here at this Congress.
Także to jest czas dla fotoreporterów. Bardzo serdecznie Państwu dziękujemy.
Dziękujemy za te
Thank you so much.
Dziękujemy wszystkim panelistom, dziękujemy
to all the speakers,
moderatorowi.
To the moderator.
Drodzy Państwo, Kongres Trójmorza.
Ladies and gentlemen, this Congress is not only about declarations and discussions, but about actions as well, about specific projects. After the 3Cs University Network was signed yesterday, agreement was signed yesterday, today we have another important document to be signed, the agreement on the network of regions of the 3Cs initiative. The network was kicked off, inaugurated 3 years ago with the Lublin Declaration. Today we are finalizing the agreement on the network of 3Cs initiative nations, will be signed by the founding regions. There's a photo session underway, so let's wait a while.
Nastąpi uroczyste podpisanie umowy o sieci regionów Trójmorza.
The ceremony for the signing of an agreement on the network of 3 SI regions will take place in a minute.
Pamiątkowe zdjęcia.
I mamy to. Wspaniale, bardzo dziękujemy. I
So we have it. Thank you very much. So now, can we have Marshal of Lubelskie, Jarosław Stawiarski, to join us on the stage? Mr. Marshal, you will witness the signature of the agreement.
Drodzy Państwo, sygnatariuszami umowy
And the signatories are
marszałek województwa świętokrzyskiego,
Marshal of Świętokrzyskie Andrzej Będkowski.
do podpisania dokumentu.
Mr. Marshal.
Poprosimy o zrobienie miejsca przed sceną, bo
Please make some room in front of the stage. We need to allow the signatories to walk up the stage. Next signatory, Marshal of Mazowieckie Ewa Orzełowska.
Umowę podpisze także wicemarszałek województwa
Deputy
podkarpackiego,
Marshal of
pani
Podkarpackie Ewa
Zapraszam
Draus.
serdecznie. Jest pani Ewa Draus, bardzo się cieszymy.
a także członek zarządu województwa podlaskiego, pan Marek
Member of the
Malinowski.
Executive Board of Podlaskie, Marek Malinowski.
Zapraszamy pana Marka Malinowskiego. Jest pan Marek Malinowski? Zapraszamy, śmiało, śmiało. Prosimy na scenę mer miasta Poniewież oraz przedstawiciel
Mayor of
Regionalnego
Poniewież
pan Rytis
and head of the Regional Development Council,
Zapraszamy. Pan
Mr. Rytis Račkauskas, Lithuania. Please join us on stage.
Przewodniczący Rady Rozwoju Regionalnego,
Head of the Regional Development Council, Mr. Nelius Cesiulis, Lithuania, who is with us online.
Rozwoju Regionalnego Mariampole, pan Edgaras Pilipaitis z Litwy, swój podpis także złożył
Marian
online.
Pilipalis of Lithuania. That's another signatory who will sign the document remotely.
Rady Okręgu Dolsz, pan Dorin Kosin-Vasile z Rumunii.
Dorin Kosin-Vasile of
Zapraszamy
Romania.
serdecznie.
Please join
Przewodniczący
us
Rady Okręgu Timisz,
on
pan
stage.
Adrian Nika z Rumunii.
Head of the
Zapraszamy.
Timish
Adrian
Region
Nika.
Council, Mr. Adrian Nika.
Wiceprzewodniczący Rady Okręgu Kalarasi, pan
Deputy
Jon Samoila
Head
z Rumunii.
of Kairasi Region, Mr. Samoila of Romania.
Wiceprzewodniczący Rady Okręgu
Deputy Head
Maramureș, pan
of the
Doru
City
Aleksandru Lazar,
Council,
Rumunia.
Mr. Alexandru
Zapraszamy.
Lazar, Romania.
Sekretarz Generalny Rady Okręgu Karasz
Secretary General
pan
of the
Darian
Karish-Severin
Ciobanu,
region,
Rumunia.
Mr. Darian Sobanu, Rumunia, Romania.
Przedstawiciel kraju preszowskiego, pan dyrektor Fabian
Representative
Nowotny,
of the Pressure country,
Słowacja.
Mr.
Zapraszamy.
Fabian Nowotny, Slovakia.
Przewodniczący Komitetu Hajdu-Bihar, pan Zoltan Pajna z
Head of the
Węgier,
Hajdu-Bihar
również składa swój podpis
Committee.
zdalnie.
Who is also online, appending the signature remotely. Mr. Komitat Hajdu-Bihar.
Składane są ostatnie podpisy.
Some last signatures
Przypominamy, że jest to uroczyste
are
podpisanie
coming up.
umowy
This
o
is
sieci regionów
our
Trójmorza.
ceremonial signature of the agreement to set up a network of the three SI regions.
Ostatni sygnatariusze
And the last
podpisują ten dokument.
Signatories, please.
A umowę przypieczętuje podpis pana
And
marszałka
of course, the last
województwa
one
lubelskiego.
will be Marshal Stawiarski.
I teraz o podpisanie umowy sieci regionów Trójmorza prosimy pana marszałka Jarosława Stawiarskiego.
Marshal Jarosław Stawiarski, the last
Swoim
signatory,
podpisem, jak powiedziała Beata, przypieczętuje ten
please
niezwykle ważny dokument.
make this finishing touch to seal the document,
Wielkie brawa,
to
proszę
make it valid.
państwa.
Thank
Stało
you
się.
very much. Thank you for your applause. Here we are. The agreement has officially become effective.
Proponujemy piękne wspólne zdjęcie i poprosimy o pozostanie na scenie, bowiem za chwilę rozpocznie się uroczyste przyjęcie nowych członków sieci.
Please remain on stage because we are going to accept new network members.
które poszerzą od
So
dzisiaj
please
to zacne grono.
join us
I tak,
on
podpisy
stage.
złożą przewodniczący
And the signatories
Rumuńskiej
will
Obwodowej
be
Administracji Wojskowej,
Head
pan
of the
Witali
Rivne Military
Kownaj,
Administration,
Pełniący
Mr.
obowiązki
Kownaj online,
przewodniczącego Odeskiej Obwodowej Administracji Wojskowej,
Acting
pan Borys
head
Woloszenkow,
of
swój podpis
the
również
administrative
złoży online.
military administration,
Osobiście podpisze się
Mr.
przewodnicząca
Okosz
Chmielnickiej Rady Obwodowej z Ukrainy, pani Wioletta Łabziuk.
Odessa,
Pani Violetto, zapraszam.
Violetta Łabzik, who is here with us in person.
Podpis złoży także przewodniczący
Please
Zakarpackiej
sign the document.
Rady Obwodowej z Ukrainy, pan Wołodymyr
Mr.
Czubirko.
Władimir Czubirko,
Zapraszamy do nas.
another signatory, please.
PO przewodniczącego Lwowskiej Rady Obwodowej z Ukrainy, pan
Acting
Hyrnyk.
head of
o wejście na scenę.
the Lviv Oblast, Mr. Hernik,
Dyrektor Agencji Rozwoju Regionu Centrum
Director
Rumunii, pani Maria
of the Central Region Development
Jest z
Agency,
nami i
Maria Iwan.
złoży osobiście.
She's here with us, so
Serdecznie
please join us
zapraszamy.
for the signature.
I tu warto wspomnieć i przypomnieć, że
And just to remind you, the Ukrainian regions are joining the network as associated partners. Our network is intended to deepen interregional cooperation in East Central Europe. We have 22 members from 6 countries,
w dziedzinie gospodarki, infrastruktury,
and they're going to work together on shared projects in environment, digitization, education, science, and many others.
Pięknie dziękujemy, ale przede wszystkim gratulujemy.
Thank you and congratulations to all signatories, to all members and new members. It's a very important moment and a very promising and bright future.
Fotografię już bez stołu.
So we're going to remove the table to take one more photograph. So please move a few steps forward, maybe ladies slightly to the front, gentlemen to the back. All right, it may be like this. I hope everybody can be seen. The signatories of the 3SI region network agreement.
Drodzy Państwo, i tym uroczystym akcentem kończymy sesję otwierającą drugi
So
dzień
we're closing
kongresu. Zapraszamy
the
na
opening
sesje
session
popołudniowe,
of day
które
2 of the
rozpoczną się o
Congress.
godzinie 13:00
At
w Lubelskim
1,
Centrum
we resume
Konferencyjnym
in the adjacent building of the Lublin Conference Center for more thematic sessions. We will join you there as well, so see you
Do zobaczenia,
after
a teraz,
lunch break.
Zapraszamy na lunch.
Enjoy your break and see you soon.